On his Truth Social site, he wrote the following. I once asked, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Now I know the answer to that question. When your family, your company, and all the people in your orbit have become the targets of an unfounded, politically motivated witch hunt supported by lawyers, prosecutors, and the fake news media, you have no choice. There's another reason that Trump may not have wanted to go down that road and be on the record during today's civil deposition, and that is the criminal cases that he's facing. Like the one that's being brought by the Manhattan District Attorney. It is very similar to the civil case, you know, the New York real estate case that I just outlined. And the AG in that civil case, she is helping them with the criminal case. So anything Trump would have said today could have been used against him in the criminal case. Criminal versus civil, you do the math. And as a reminder, that criminal case was put on ice back in February when the Manhattan DA decided against going ahead with the prosecution of Trump. It was that action that in turn led to his two lead prosecutors getting up and walking out, abruptly resigning in protest, saying that their leader, the DA, didn't have the political will to go after Trump. This is a lot to take in. I get it. And that's not even all of the legal daggers right now that Trump is facing. So Mar-a-Lago, you've heard a lot about that this week, the search and seizure there. That is totally separate from what we're talking about today and tonight. And we're going to get to the developments in the Mar-a-Lago case in just a minute. But first, I'm joined by our senior story editor, Paula Froelich, who's live outside of the Attorney General's office in Manhattan. So describe the day that Trump had today as he went into that building behind you.
Honestly, Ashleigh, he had a heck of a day, and it started early. He left his apartment at Trump Tower in Midtown at 8:38 a.m., drove in a huge convoy of 5 blacked-out SUVs all the way down in rush hour traffic to Financial District to 28 Liberty Street, right here behind me, which is, of course, the home of Letitia James's office, the Attorney General for New York. And he went straight up. They actually went in the garage, so he didn't have any chance to interact with any of the people who were milling around. He went straight up and sat down and started answering questions, which were innumerable. And let's be honest, he had maybe a little over an hour for lunch, but he did not leave until 3:20. So that's over 5 hours of being questioned and saying the same, or I plead the fifth, with the exception of admitting, of course, that his name was Donald J. Trump.
Oh, I love that part. But it's, you know, it's important to note there's a lunch break in there as well. But I mean, if you're just answering the same thing over and over, that is a lot of questions. And my guess is that it might be even more than the number of questions that his adult son Eric faced. The children have also gone through this dog and pony show as well, right? They've had to go into that same building and answer questions. So what's been the story with them?
Well, so it's interesting because his youngest son, Eric, took over the day-to-day operations of the Trump organization, and he pled the fifth 500 times back in 2020. Now, his other son, Donald Jr., and his daughter, Ivanka, also were questioned earlier this month, but they did not plead the fifth. And it's probably because they haven't had so much to do with the organization over the years.
Yeah, but interesting, we haven't been given any information on what, you know, they were asked or what they said in their depositions earlier in the last couple of weeks. You just mentioned the people that Donald Trump drove into the basement, so he didn't have any interaction. But wherever he goes, you hear people yelling one way or the other. So give me an idea of the number of supporters out there, the number of detractors, the number of just looky-loos. What was it like?
So it was kind of interesting. When he first arrived, there were only a couple of dozen people. And then throughout the day, we're talking people stayed for 6+ hours. There were hundreds of people waiting. And now the majority of them were tourists and looky-loos. But there were some people who quietly expressed support to the press. But again, this is New York City. There's not a lot of support for Donald Trump here, but there weren't detractors either. It wasn't people waving signs or screaming with bullhorns.
Well, but you get those people in the crazy costumes, too. But New York City in the summer also not as many people here. Usually people, you know, fly the coop, especially yesterday when it was like 96 degrees. And today, not a whole lot better.
It is literally only tourists in August, yes.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, I mean, look, we're seeing the pictures. That looks like a bit of a scene. No matter what, people either wanted to get a glimpse of him, get a picture of him to take back to Peoria, or actually really invested in this particular case. Paula Froelich, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.